Hello, I am Coach Mechelle Canady, Master Life Coach and Chief Curator for Embrace You Training Solutions. And thank you again for coming to join the show. Come, let's sit down and talk. So, in our last segment, we were having a conversation with two of the life coaches from Embrace You, the Currys, Shenice and Durrell. So, we were in such an amazing conversation that we couldn't cut it off. So, we wanted to do a be continued. So if you haven't gone and watched the show from last week, go back and then you can catch up. But we're going to start right where we were. So we were talking about how grief has an impact on what you do and why you do it now. Mm-hmm. So going forward, what does the service you provide to people who are grieving looks like?
So currently I am offering a 8-week mindset adjustment course. So that could be a lot of different things, but what we have to realize is a lot of things start here. So a man thinks, so is he. Life and death is in the power of the tongue. So it's just basically week by week, we're touching on different things to get to the root of the problem, to figure out how do we heal? Where do we go from here? I just finished one course and we have one starting June 15th next month. And I'm super excited about that, just allowing people to transform. Again, with grief, everyone has their own process, but I believe once we learn how to control our emotions and we learn how to channel our thoughts, that begins the healing process.
So if someone is interested in becoming a part of this group, how would they contact you?
So you can contact me on my website at www.radicaltransformationlifecoaching, or just find me on Facebook. My name is Shenice Curry.
Good. So if you are in the need of a mind reset, contact Shenice so that she can get you set up for her program. So you mentioned healing, and everybody's healing process looks different, just like everybody's grief process look different. So Shenice, what did your healing process look like?
To be honest, as I was explaining in the last session, my process started when I started my group, but it wasn't complete. Taking Embrace You coaching, I really learned a lot of things about myself. Although we learned how to be life coaches, right? In your voice, we had to learn how to heal ourselves in order to heal somebody else. We had to be able to coach. In order to coach the whole person, we had to be healed. We had to realize what our triggers were and things like that. So I think those were the dots that kind of completed everything to help me be able to be healed.
And Durrell, so what did your healing process look like?
My healing process is funny, and I'm the type of person I suck it up and I keep moving. My healing process was more of me being able to open up to my wife and coming into Embrace You coaching and in the classes and being able to talk with certain people in the group, talking with you. That helped me heal from some things.
Yeah. So I know one of the things that we have as one of our mantras that every coach needs a coach. And it's opening up in the course to coaching is what helps you to start that process and knowing that it is just that. Like healing is not a one-step thing. Even when you think about Jesus and his healing, there were some that he touched and were instantly healed, and then there were some that had a healing process. He touched the blind man and he said, "What do you see?" He said, "I see men in the trees." Yeah. He touched him again, and when something has multiple steps, that's called process. And being able to help others through the process of healing, what does that do for your healing process?
That's a good question. It helps me, to be honest. I think that if I would not have took the journey of going through Embrace You coaching, I think that if I would not have took the journey of starting my Woman of Strength group, that I would really still be in a dark place. Not to say that someone else's situation is worse than mine, but sometimes you'll look at some people and be like, well, God, I have the nerve to be complaining, but they're going through much more than what I'm going through. And I believe that we're all put here to be disciples of Christ. And what does a disciple look like? It looks like people that are there for people, not necessarily judging them, but seeing what they could do to help them heal or help them be delivered or help them be made whole.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I see that.
So, Durrell, how do you think helping others heal helps you heal?
I would just say about, because a lot of stuff I teach and I say, not only does it help that person, it helps me. So seeing other people heal is like a smile to my heart.
Mm-hmm.
That builds on and strengthens my heart.
Yeah. And it is, seeing the light bulb come on for people is an amazing feeling, especially when you learn that regardless to where you are, healing power still can flow.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a difference when you're hurting and your desire is to help others heal, or when you're hurting and you're just bleeding all over
That's
people.
it.
Yeah.
There is, I went through a period where I knew I didn't need to minister, but I needed to be ministered to. In those times that you feel that you're not able to press through, what does that look like?
I'm putting up a Facebook post and saying, Shenice will not be live tonight. Keep me in your prayers. And I go to people that I know that can cover me in prayer. I go to my husband and let him know. And sometimes he'll be like, you got to push through. Let's pray now. And you got to get through it. But he can tell those times when I just need a moment.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the issue. I may be shifting a little bit, but with church and with ministry now, like they feel as though they have to keep this strong aura about themselves, that they have to look like they got it all together all the time. But you're not, like you said earlier, it's okay not to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes moments where you have to realize, I need a break. I got to step back because I can hurt somebody because I'm hurt.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you will definitely hurt someone.
Mm-hmm.
I say all the time, leaders who bleed in silence bleed on those they serve openly.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that because I was a bleeding leader. I was a leader who had anger issues. I was a leader who was judgmental. I was a leader who lied.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes we don't realize when we are pretending to be healed and we're not, we're lying.
Yeah, that's good.
And I remember times going in church, doing revivals, laying hands on people, not realizing how detrimental it was in the state I was in, but we're taught to keep going.
Yeah.
I shared with one of the coaches not too long ago, we're told don't stop, but there are times that you need to just pause. And a stop and a pause look different.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And I believe that if you take that moment to stop and pause, or just take that break and allow yourself to be ministered to, it'll keep you from exploding.
Mm-hmm.
It'll keep you from going on a rampage.
Mm-hmm.
It'll keep you from cussing this person and that
Yes.
person out. You'll be able to keep your stopping and pausing will save your character, save who you are.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that you're not a real pastor or you're not a real prophet, anything, but you're saving your face by stopping and pausing.
No. Even Jesus had to pause.
Yeah.
Like he had to pull away. And we have this superhero mantra when it comes to being leaders. Like, period. Not even just in the church, but being business owners. We feel like we've got to be the one who does everything. We got to be the one that solves all the problems. And it becomes so overwhelming to the point that it will cause you to abort your purpose.
That's good.
I was going through a situation and I had to pray and say, Lord, don't allow me to let my feelings abort my assignment.
Yeah.
Because when we begin to operate in our feelings, it's a dangerous place because you can't trust your feelings.
Yeah.
When you go by what you're feeling like, you could be, your feelings, they change from one moment to the next, especially, if you have some emotional issues, like you can go from 1 to 10, what they say, 0 flat.
Right.
And when you look at not being able to be in the position to get the necessary help that you need, it will cause you to hurt those that your desire to minister to. And going on that pause for me changed my relationship with who Christ was. I've always been a church worker. Like, my mama went in labor on her way to church.
Wow.
And that's no joke. No, that's for real, for real. So I have been in church all my life. I've done everything you could think about in church, from pastoring to cleaning the toilet to being an usher. And my connection to Christ was church.
That's, come on.
And oftentimes when that is our connection, when that factor is no longer there because you're hurting and you've decided, I'm not doing church anymore, then what?
No relationship.
None. Preaching, prophesying, laying hands, speaking in tongues, seeing people healed, delivered, set free, and I was so bound. So taking that pause gave me an opportunity to build a relationship with Christ so that I could be a part of the church. And that was a big move for me. I didn't grieve the loss of the life that I had. I didn't grieve the loss of my father. So I struggled for years, not allowing myself time to go through the grieving process, not allowing myself to take the pause that was needed. And there's such a big difference between a stop and a pause. Even when it takes more energy for you to start back when you stop than it does when you just take a pause. It's like when you're riding in a car and you come to the light. If you go to a complete stop, then your engine got to start everything all back over. But you hit that pause to turn that curve, you already still in sync, so you can keep going. So oftentimes, knowing that it's okay to pause when you're having those moments, especially when it deals to grief. Some people try to do life as usual, but it's not life as usual because there's a missing piece there. So how do you make it through when those missing pieces are not there?
I know for me, when we had the topic pregnancy, I was like, listen, I'm not coming back to work. Like I mentioned, I do the Facebook Lives. I was like, I'm not going back on Facebook Live, but I am connected to certain pastors. And as you were speaking this, it took me back. Like, a lot of them was like, well, you got to get up. When you going to go live again? But no, I need a moment. And I didn't feel bad about it. Like, I didn't feel like it was an issue. Even when I was ready to go back to work, he was like, you sure that you're ready to go back to work? But I think it's different for some people. Some people do get their healing from continuing, because sometimes the idle mind is the devil's playground as well. So again, everyone grieves differently, but for me, I just literally needed to take a step back. And even sometimes now, if I need a minute, I'm gonna take it, and I don't feel bad about it at all.
Absolutely. It is so vital, because what I did, and when I lost my father, because I'm that person who does everything for the family. So if it's something that we need to put together, I'm the one who's going to help put it together. If it's something we need to have created, I'm the one who's going to create it. So from the moment, I was actually standing in the cemetery at Restline because my ex-husband was doing a graveside. And when I got the call that my dad had passed. So from that moment, I instantly started planning.
Yeah, trying to stay busy.
And it wasn't staying busy. It was because that was my assumed role in the family.
Yeah.
So I started planning. I started making calls. I started making connections. I did not stop. I kept going. Making funeral arrangements, doing the obituary, doing this, finding this family member, doing this, doing that, and realizing hindsight that I never even took a moment to just cry.
Yeah.
And when that moment did hit me,
It was bad.
and I was sitting in the rest lawn cemetery at someone else's funeral, and when I say it hit me like a ton of bricks, like I was having a panic attack. I couldn't breathe. It was as if I was reliving that moment in the same cemetery when I got that call. And I believe if I had just taken a moment to pause, to understand that it's okay to recognize what you're feeling, I would have been able to manage my emotions a little bit better. I tell people a lot, we go through these times where we sit in stuff, sitting our emotions, sitting our heartache, sitting our grief, because we never take the moment to say what they're feeling.
Yeah.
And what I have discovered for me is if I take a minute to acknowledge what I'm feeling and say what I'm feeling, I can move forward faster.
That's good.
Where it would take me a week to recoup, a week that you don't have. Like, can you really afford to miss a week out of all the things you do because you're sitting in your feelings? No, because now you're a week behind. So just taking that moment to acknowledge what I'm feeling has changed the trajectory for me. So going back to our topic of grief, because we done talked about a whole lot. We done shared about a whole lot, but going back to the topic of grief. So if you could say anything to Shenice, who you were prior to grief, with the knowledge you have now after grief, what would you say to you?
I would say work on you, but don't blame you. I took a lot of time blaming myself. Even sometimes I blame my husband, like, well, what is wrong with him? But just try to understand that, life and God's timing is not my timing. And I have to understand that everything is working for his perfect will. But also to release it, say it, be open to talk to my husband and have that conversation. If we're going to grieve, then why not grieve together? Versus you being in the garage grieving and I'm in the room grieving. We did a lot of that. We did a lot of grieving separately. That's what I would tell myself.
Oh, that's big. So, Durrell, if the Durrell today could tell the Durrell 3 years ago before DJ passed, what would you tell yourself?
Basically, most of the same thing she said, and let it out, release.
Mm-hmm.
Don't sweep it under the rug. I picked up a trait from my mom. As I sweep some stuff I sweep it under the rug and keep it. That help me keep moving on. But somewhere down the road, it'll trigger back. It'll set me back. So that's what I would tell Durrell now is that let it out.
Yeah. And it's funny, I just said yesterday in a workshop, when it comes to sweeping things under the rug, like you can't see it, but after a while you're going to trip over that lump. You sweep it under there, yeah, it's out of sight.
It's going to keep piling up, though.
And when it pile up, you're going to be walking just thinking everything is okay, everything is normal, and you're going to trip over it. And that's how it really is. You going on, you thinking I'm okay because I've packed it away, and then something triggers it. And triggers are funny. They will find you. Yeah. And you will be sitting like, where did that come from? So in the grief process, knowing now what you all know, how do you think that empowers you all to minister to other couples who may have lost babies?
I wish I had somebody at that time. And I know when I lost the last baby, you yelled at me, but I was so used to dealing with stuff on my own. All my life, like really, I just deal with it. And I really wouldn't necessarily say it was a sweeping under the rug, but I guess it is. But I'm just used to being like, I get through it. Because you get so used to being around people that judge you or that tell you to get over it. Like when we told our parents that we was pregnant, like, and to the last one, there was just like, oh God, my mom, I don't want another grandbaby. We would call them being excited and they would just make us feel like, dang, we shouldn't have told anybody. So being able to have that outlet, you know, we didn't really have it. So just being able to have somebody, I wish I had somebody. So for those of you that has lost a child, reach out to somebody. Don't just sit in it and deal with it, because your husband or your wife may not be strong enough to tell you what you need to know. But reaching out to somebody and letting it go, that probably would have caused us not to go through some of the things that we went through.
And what you think, Durrell?
Everything my wife said. She speak my mind a lot of the time. So everything she says, yeah. She speaks for me a lot.
So she's the spokesperson for me. Yeah, definitely. And that is so true, because going back to where I shared with you all the moment I decided that I was going to just go ahead and live, it was created out of that I'm now going to be there for people who are going through the same thing, because I feel like I went through everything that I was going through from 2009 to 2014 all by myself. You know, not sharing people on a limited basis, not being able to be vulnerable, not being able to say I'm okay, because you got people looking at you or people depending on you, because you've made yourself what people depend on, because your need to be needed, and deciding, if I find somebody who's going through and I come across somebody who's going through, I'm going to be there for them. And hindsight, I now know, like, that's where my desire to be a life coach came in, wanting to be there with people. And what I find myself now doing is being that person to leaders. Being the one that coach those who lead others, being that sounding block for those who are in high level positions, who are in positions where you can't vent down, or you can't vent to those you lead, because they don't have the capacity to handle it. So I have found myself now in that role to be the one who coaches. And I remember when I did my application for the life coaching process I went through, it was like, what do you want to do in 5 years? And I was like, I want to coach coaches. And within a year, I was coaching coaches. I feel like God had me on a real fast track. But you need somebody.
Yeah.
You need somebody. You have to have somebody. And I think if leaders had that person, then they wouldn't bleed on others or take it out on others. So being in a good place, going through the process, helps us help others. So I am Coach Mechelle Canady, and these are the Carries. Would you tell us your business name and your email address again?
Our business name is Radical Transformation Life Coaching. Email address is radicaltransformationcoaching@gmail.com, or you could just find us on Facebook, Durrell Curry Sr. and Shenice Curry.
And I am Master Life Coach Mechelle Canady. Thank you again for joining the show. If you enjoyed the conversation, you can join us at 6:30 for the Facebook Live. We'll be sharing with the Currys again. So we'll see you there.
With Embrace You, I found a career.
At Embrace You, I found a family.
At Embrace You, I found me.
Are you the strong friend who's always giving advice? Are you the one always mentoring and coaching? Have you thought about being a certified life coach? Because here at Embrace You, we have room for you in our family.
I am Embrace You.
I am Embrace You.
I am Embrace You.
And you can be Embrace You.